Hello and welcome back to Start Competing 40k. My name is Andy Salkeld and this is a video series I'm preparing to try and help people enter the world of competitive 40k. My motivations for doing this are largely that I have suffered from social anxiety for a long time, and when I went looking to start playing 40k, I couldn't find a resource like this out there. So as I have helped my friends do this a few times, I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to create it myself to try and help other people to get into a fantastic side of the hobby. This is episode 3 of 6. Previous episodes were on the self and the atmosphere. We're now going to talk about the event. Now I'm going to focus on matched play single tournaments. There are narrative, open, teams, etc., various other sorts of tournaments and structures, but I don't have any experience in those. I only have kind of third hand that I've watched on streams and so on. So I'm going to talk about my experience playing match play singles tournaments. This is kind of what you would mostly experience if you just play versus a friend in one-on-one games at home. Tournaments in general typically come with what's called an event pack, and these event packs will often have the missions you're going to play, the terrain layouts that you will play those missions on, the keywords attached to that terrain, and answers to any frequently asked questions that may have been asked about the tournament and the event pack. These are often provided online and by the tournament organisers or via a website, etc. And the reason this is done is this is so that people can prepare in advance and that players have equal information to lower confusion and basically tell people what they're going to do in advance. I'm not going to go into the event packs in this series too much. They're covered by many other players. I may do a series on it, particularly the UK tournament circuit pack, just because that's what we play on here in the UK. And if people are interested, just leave a note in the comments, let me know, and I'll pull it together. But largely, these event packs are out there. You will be able to see what you are going to be doing in advance. There are various sizes of tournaments, and this is largely determined by the number of players who can attend. There are various, it's not one size fits all. If there is anything you are uncertain about, always contact the tournament organizer in advance, and if you're concerned on the day, do it then. There are two main categories that you will see advertised, and then kind of a third one, which is a subset of the latter one, at least in my opinion. So there are RTTs. These are Rogue Trader tournaments. These are typically one-day events where you play 3 rounds of a mission pack. They're typically a kind of a full-day affair, maybe a 9 to 6 sort of deal with a lunch break. Normally, these don't exceed 32 players, and you can end up with multiple undefeated players at the end, so tiebreakers become important, etc. The next type is the GT, so this is a grand tournament. And these are typically 2 days, which are either 5, 6, maybe more rounds. And essentially, they're just 2 days of what an RTT is back to back. So you'll play on the Saturday and play on the Sunday. And I don't know if there is a specific numbers limit, but 128 players, you can end up with 1 undefeated player at the end of 6 rounds. So that would be my guess, but I don't know the specifics of it. But typically on these events, either it's just 6 rounds and the undefeated person wins, there's ties, etc. It goes to tiebreakers. Sometimes there is a top cut of maybe a top 4 or top 8, depending. So this is where they might say they might play 5 rounds and then have a top 4 for the people who have the best win-loss and tiebreakers after 5 rounds. Best just check the tournament pack, and it will tell you about that. If you're uncertain, check with the tournament organizer. Then you have what a lot of people refer to as super majors, but these are essentially just bigger GTs that might last 7, 8, 9 rounds, have a top cut, etc. And this is typically where it goes into the multiple of hundreds players attending. And there's not a huge amount of them globally, but they're just to be aware of. Take a look at them and check the tournament pack, and just do your reading in advance. Now, most of these events are held in sports halls, auditoriums, or an equivalent when they're larger scale, or just held in, say, a town hall, your local game store, etc., if it's an RTT. Now, my recommendation is going to be start by playing at RTTs, 3-round events, 1 day, just because these are accessible, they're local, they often don't involve significant traveling, and they're they're a very good starting point. So a lot of my conversation here is going to start on those. When signing up to an RTT, it's important to remember that you are signing up to play 3 games of Warhammer in a day. This is one of the reasons that games are timed, is that it allows a tournament to finish within a day cycle or 2-day cycle at a GT. Typical day will look something like this. Arrive at 9 o'clock, play a briefing until, say, 9:15, round 1, 9:15 to 12:15, lunch until 1 o'clock, then round 2, 1 till 4, round 3, 4 till 7, awards and closing until 7:30, and then done. Now, that assumed 3-hour rounds. A lot of tournaments kind of do 2 hours 45 or 2.5-hour rounds, maybe a smaller lunch break, to try and get it into the 9 to 6 or 9 to 6:30 kind of space. This will all be published in the tournament pack or on the Facebook group or on wherever you have found the tournament to sign up for. We're going to be talking about Best Coast Pairings, the BCP app, in the next episode. But you will have this information in advance. Now, going through that, the most time-pressured period you are going to experience is between Game 2 and Game 3. So this is midway through the afternoon when you have finished your first game and you're about to start finished your second game and are just about to start your third game. So this is kind of the pinch point, and that's the bit to be aware of, because trying to get food and water at that point can be kind of time pressured. Going to the bathroom can also be a struggle there. So try to be aware of that being the complex bit of the day. Now, a lot of events will put on food of some kind. They will typically tell you of this in advance. Now, it may be a voucher for a cafe or sausage sandwich, or even kind of a spread of sandwiches and confectionery from, say, a Costco or something. Be aware of if food is served. Typically, adverts will say lunch provided, which is included in the cost of your event. Many venues will have access to drinks, snacks. Also, be aware of where the bathroom is. A lot of venues that I've been to now offer free water, which is useful. Make sure to take advantage of it. I would also recommend taking a water bottle with you so that you can just drink freely as much as you need throughout the day, because it can be tiring and you can get dehydrated through it. Now, there's a couple of etiquette things that I kind of want to touch on just in this episode briefly. Firstly, a lot of people leave their armies completely unattended. They'll put their army on a tray and they'll just leave it there for everyone to walk past and see. Now, this concerned me because armies are time-consuming and expensive, but people want to leave the work they have done on show for others to look at. I hadn't appreciated this, and it's something I want to work towards doing in the future. Similarly, on multi-day events, some players leave their armies at the venue overnight to save them travelling to and from the venue. This is particularly common when you're staying overnight in a different town, because it means you can take everything to that location, walk back to your hotel without carrying anything important, and then come back the next day. Now, I don't believe any tournament organisers offer any protection for this, but it's something people have done. Final thing that caught me off guard, as it happened multiple times within the same events, is people just buy each other drinks. I've never met a person before and they say, "Do you want me to buy you a drink? I'll get you a Coke, Pepsi, beer, if it's being served, etc., etc." And that really caught me off guard. And it's really appreciative. Like, there are times when I was so thankful for it. So what I've started doing is paying it forward. So I will always offer to buy people a drink if I'm wanting to buy myself one. And that way it's building a more inclusive community overall. Now, there's a lot of discourse about what counts as fully painted and what counts as a proxy or a 3D model now, or 3D printing, and what is and isn't allowed. The most important thing in all these regards is contact the tournament organizer. We all have different standards of painting and modeling. We all have different experiences. We all kind of have our own aesthetic, and everything is done to our tastes ultimately. And this is a very hard thing to balance, and it is very subjective. And the reason it's important is at these events, there are 10 points awarded in each game for a fully painted army. And it's just about being cognizant of what that means. Now, I have seen some people that I would not necessarily consider their army fully painted, but at the same point, everyone else considers it fully painted, and they do, and it's kind of not in my place to judge. If you are in doubt about what counts as fully painted, Games Workshop themselves has published a guideline as to what they consider battle ready, which is largely put the base coats down, maybe put a wash on, maybe do some highlights, but base coating and a textured base is the key bit here. And then there are more things you can do. So do that. But then equally, I have seen armies that have just been done through kind of zenithal priming and then inking to kind of give a glow effect on a model, and people have kind of played with it and been happy. And ultimately, if you are uncertain, ask. Finally, 3D printing. Again, the most important thing with stuff like that is the base size. Make sure whatever it is on the correct base size, and then has a similar profile at least. There have been some stories told of people always kind of hunkering down into a small ball, etc., etc. So at least try to mirror the profile of the army. I have a lot of converted models in my Sisters of Battle army, where I use Nighthaunt to represent various aspects, so Repentia and Novitiates. All my models have 3D printed hoods on them, and what I do ahead of any event that I go to is I will send them an email and I will say, "Hey, this is my army. Is it acceptable? And what do I need to do to make it acceptable?" I am due to be playing an event at Warhammer World. I emailed Warhammer World and I said, "Here is a link to my website that has a full kind of image view of all my Sisters of Battle. Are these acceptable?" They asked me where my 3D printed hoods came from. I told them, and they said that's fine. And all I will do now is I will bring that email with me if they question me on the day, or I'll have access to it. I do exactly the same at other events, and again, if you're uncertain with these things, or you're uncertain of your opponent's miniatures, just ask a judge. Just be like, hey, I'm not certain that's what that looks like. Is this okay? If it is, that's fine. But also be aware that your opponents don't know what your models are. So my Nighthaunt conversions are Novitiates and Repentia, which have very different attack profiles, very different places on the board, and it's important to remind people and not be frustrated when they get it wrong, because they need to know what your cool models actually are so that they can plan their strategy around it. So just be aware of those sorts of things. Anyway, that's where we are from talking about the event. The next episode, we are going to be talking about the apps. And the important thing here is it's going to cover 2 apps that are widely used at present at the time of recording, which is Battlescribe and Best Coast Pairings. And we're going to talk through those. So, as I said at the other videos, this is very much a kind of here to help my friends. But if people enjoy this, if people like this and would like more of them, please do leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, etc., because it will let me know that people enjoy and value this sort of content. Anyway, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you in episode 4.